Hey, this is Tiger and welcome to my stream. We are back for some more shunting action in the Oakville Subdivision DLC in Canada. Last Thursday, we had a lot of snow and snow graphics, and this time I wanted to look on the summer side of this DLC and play some scenarios that take us further into the shunting procedures and the ethanol loading, and also let us experience some more signal aspects so that we can actually recap a bit what we learned and trained about in CROR signaling. So what I would like to do is to play two scenarios, not completely play them through, but this one I wanted to play at least for a nice half scenario, something like this. It's quite a long scenario. It has a difficulty of 5. I don't really know why it is so difficult. It is just long and you have to do a lot of stuff. Hey AJ, thank you for moderating my stream. Yeah, if we go for gold medal on this one, then we have to drive around a bit before we end the scenario, I guess. But because there are not enough points in the scenario if you just play it straight, even if you don't make any mistakes and always drive below speed limit. So you would have to make an extra tour to get more points for driving under speed limit to get the gold medal. And yeah, I thought we only play this scenario half because it is more or less 2 parts, and the second part is a bit like the first one, just in a different yard. What I really like about this DLC is maybe with the second scenario, what I really like about this DLC is that there are so many different yards where you can go and for your shunting procedures. It is not linear, it is not just driving from A to B, it is a lot of going into yards and going out of yards and reversing your train into a different part that you have not seen before, and this is really great. I like that. So the way we are starting this scenario, we have 2 locomotives, 2 GP9 RN locomotives coupled together in the way that we usually get them. If we have a pair of them, caps on the outside, so that we can, if we want, switch caps and ends and always look into the direction that we are going. Since we have a lot of shunting to do, we will not be alone today, and in real life you would have at least one crew member, a conductor with you, who is the guy who always jumps off the train and sets the switches and does the coupling and stuff. And so I wanted to have a crew member as well. So the camera 3A that I am using at the moment will be our conductor, our crew member. So he can ride on the train on the outside, and he can ride on the cars if we get cars, and he can radio us if there are any adverse signals or switches to set. So what I am doing with the well, I'll tell you which direction we will be going. I'm just explaining what our camera 3A will be today, and it will be Hank, our conductor. Say hello, Hank. Hello. And he will be riding here on the outside in case we are going that way and sitting on the other end of the train. Well, we have to set up our locomotive first, reverser in, auxiliary systems to go. Then I always like to check if we have our MU2A valve on lead or dead. Loco brakes on full so that we can release and cut in the air brakes. We can see that the equalizing reservoir and the brake pipe are filling. In the meantime, we can turn on our security systems, safety systems, alerter control, number lights always on the leading locomotive. And since we have 2 locomotives, we have to set up the light control correctly, and that means that we have to put this switch here on controlling with unit coupled at long hood end. This is the other one, so that we can control the lights on the other locomotive, so that we do not always have to go back to the other locomotive if we want to change the lighting on the other end of our little consist. This is the other locomotive, same one, but only facing in the other direction. And here the MU2A valve is set to lead or dead 2. That is not a good thing usually, because only one locomotive is the lead, obviously, and on the other one you would have to set it to trail 6 or 26. This is the system. At least important is that it is on trail. It does not really hurt in this DLC. On the sand patch grade it hurts, and since the game is never telling you about the MU2A valve, this is the classic thing for every beginner starting to do shunting in sand patch grade, is that you don't set the MU valve correctly, and then you can never release your independent brakes fully and cannot accelerate your locomotives properly. So never forget the MU valve. You can't really see it when you're sitting. Here, I'm crouching down. This is the MU valve. It more or less tells the locomotive that this one is the locomotive in charge of the independent brake, and if I set this to trail and the other one to lead, then I can actuate the independent brake on this locomotive with the lever on the other end. Here I set the switch to be controlled, and then we are almost done. I forgot to set the classification lights. Yeah, I have to tell you something about the classification lights later, because I found out what they are good for in the meantime, or at least what they have been good for in the past, because now they are no longer good for anything except for marking the end of the train. At least in so far I was right on Thursday, that the end of the consist needs to have the red lights. So Hank, everything good with you? Then we can use the other camera to check if our lighting is correct. So this is the red classification lights for the end of our little consist. If loco happens to be the last vehicle in the consist, then the loco needs to have the red lights. The white lights and the green lights, they had their use in former times. You would set the red, the white lights on the locomotive if you were a train that was not in the timetable, but a special train running on a special train order. Then you would set it to white, so that everyone seeing you would know that you are not the train that they were expecting according to the timetable, but a special train, so that they would not check the train on the timetable and will still wait for the actual train. And the green one is another thing from those times. If you put green ones, then you would be telling people that there are other parts of the same train following until there is a locomotive without the green lights. So you can read that up in the forum. There is actually someone who copy-pasted a part of an article from the Trains magazine, and they explained what the green and white lights used to be good for in former times. Now there is obviously no use for them anymore, not in this DLC. Only the red ones on the end of the locomotive, of the consist, mark the end of the train. Alright, our lighting setup. I want to have the front headlights in bright. Ditch lights, we need to have ditch lights when we go out in open track. In shunting we don't necessarily need them, but it's always good because you can read signals better and stuff. And now why we set this switch here for controlling and the other one for being controlled is that if I set my rear headlights to bright and on, then I'm not... Hank, you can stay where you are. Let's take this camera. If I would not set up this other switch properly, then I would obviously turn those headlights on as my rear headlights, and this does not make a lot of sense because I want those headlights to work as our rear headlights. So with those switches being set to controlling and the other one to being controlled, I can use this switch here on my front end and then have those headlights on. See? So this is the idea why you set those switches to controlling and controlled, so that you can control everything from this command stand here. Okay. You ask me, how do we know where to go? We check it on this screen. Last time we used this screen also to set our switches. Today we will not set the switches with this screen. We will actually have our Hank, our conductor, and on lookout, and we will see in the real world how the switches are set and whether we have to do anything about it. And we will have a look at those signals that tell us what way the signals are the switches are set, and if we have to do something. And we will see there are some issues with that. At the moment we know we just have to go straight across the switches, not facing the points, what is always not a big problem. If we are running a switch this way, then it can be set whatever way it is. When we run across it with the train, then it will just be set by our train to the correct position. And then we are supposed to stop here. Running in the other direction, we need to see that they are set in the correct position. Only with spring switches it is a different story. There are some switches that spring back into their original position, so if you run across them not facing the points, you need to be careful not to stop and not to build slack in your train, because you can imagine this: if you have a switch that always goes back into its position that it has been in, and you run across it, then you push the points into the other directions, and then they want to go back. So if you go backwards, then you can actually damage those points, because then they want to go back in the other directions, and there can be a mess with your wheels. At the moment, all we need to do is to set the reverser to forward, call the signaler. The scenario tells us to start with collect the empty tank cars indicated and haul them over to the facility near Flank Road. Okay, this is what we will be doing. Since it is the first movement, I blow the horn twice to set this moving. Have a look at the speedometer so that we do not overspeed. And then check the distance meter in the top left corner, so we know where to stop. If you want to make it a bit harder still, you can turn it off by pressing F1 like this, and then you just estimate when you are in the position that is indicated on the map. So now we have to couple to formation 5 tank cars, and this is a job for our Hank. He's sitting on the other end, and he has to make sure that all the switches are set correctly. If we look at this, we have to go to the right on the next possible switch, because we can obviously not go into this switch because we are standing there. So Hank, can you see? Where are you, by the way? Did you travel to the wrong end? Sometimes this happens. Yeah, Hank traveled to the wrong end. He has to go back to this locomotive because he has to sit here. And this is the switch that we have to switch around because we want to go to those tank cars. So Hank can just hop off the rear locomotive, set the switch, can check that the points are aligned correctly and that we are facing those tank cars, and then he can get back onto the locomotive and tell us on the radio everything is okay, you can start. I put in the reverser, throttle up, release the independent brake, and get the train moving. And then I can make sure that we are not speeding. If we want, I can open the window and have a view myself. But since we have Hank on the other end, he can just tell us when we have to slow down. I read up a bit about shunting procedures in the operating rules and how this works and stuff, and we will have a look at this later. At the moment, just let me show you how I think that we should do it. Since we have to check the couplers before we couple up, actually we stop in a distance of 12 to 6 feet, and Hank gets off and he just checks the couplers if they are working properly. Every time Hank is moving in the space between the vehicles, he radios me and asks me for a red zone protection. That means if there is a red zone protection for the train, then I, as the engineer, am not allowed to move the train because I don't want to run over my conductor. So to check the pins and everything, he has to go in between the vehicles, and he can make sure, okay, everything is well. You can couple, red zone protection released. I throttle up, release the independent, wait for the locomotive to get into motion, and then let it slide into the coupling. All good. In real life, Hank would probably have to secure those air hoses by hand here. Those couplers itself, they work automatically just by connecting the two vehicles, but those air hoses, they need to be usually they need to be fixed manually, because there is no way to get them together without that. So this is what the conductor or another crew member would do, just connect those hoses for coupling. And then in the operating rules they state you cannot just drive away after coupling, but you have to stretch the train, apply some force, so that you see if the coupling actually works, if it was a good coupling, and for that we apply some traction power in the other direction. We have seen our PCS went open by coupling. That happens if we couple to an empty brake pipe sometimes, or if we couple too fast. I don't know if you can always circumvent if you couple very slowly. Sometimes it works without blowing the PCS, but this time it apparently did not work. What we need to do, throttle to 0, reverse it to neutral, independent brake full on to hold the train, and then, you know it from last Thursday, set the emergency brake, the auto brake into emergency, drain the brake pipe, all the white hands are to 0, and then we have to wait for a minute to for the train to reset, and then the PCS indicator will be off as soon as we move the handle back into the release position, and then we can fill our brake pipe again. I should have done this before I explained all the other stuff, but hey, so I can explain it even more from what I read in the operating rules. So what is it? Stretching the train. We know that there is always a bit of a play between the cars and the locomotives, or the cars, that the couplers are not fixed in a way that the distance between the vehicles is always the same, but they can move. There is a play. There are some springs in there, and so they can move. So you can stretch the train by pulling the vehicles from each other, and you can build some slack, and you can actually condense the train by pushing it together. And before you start, the operating rules require you to stretch the train to see if the couplers are working properly. Has the minute passed? We will just see. If not, yeah, it was enough. You can see the brake pipe filling again after putting the air brakes into release. Also on the rear end, the brake pipe is filling more slowly because all the air has to propagate through the air pipe. But here it is quite fast. The train is not long, so we don't need to wait for a long time. And now stretching the train, reverse it to forward, throttle a bit, and then see the train move, and we can see yes, all is good, it worked. Then we can stop again. Hank can get back on the locomotive, and well, actually Hank can go to the end of the train, but he can do this later because we need it when we reverse. What I can do now, I can switch off the lights on the back of our two locomotives, because when cars are coupled I don't need to do that. The train is at the moment 434.4 tons with empty cars, and they will probably get heavier when we fill them with ethanol, this time for real. Okay, let's check where we have to go. This is where we have to go. Here we have to watch out that the switches are set correctly, because here is a switch that we are approaching from towards the point. Here as well, we need to go to the left, and then go on and on. Stay on the main track. Stay on the main track here, and then stop here. Okay, conductor, Hank, what you do, you step on the other to the other side of the train, and you ride here in case that we need you to set the switches properly. And I start my train. Hank view, my view. So when you can see those, you can see those signs, they are actually supposed to tell you about which way the switch is set. And there is a normal position and there is a reverse position. And usually the position that you need to have the switch in to go on the main track, to go not into the siding, to go away, to go through, is the normal position, and the reverse position is the position that you divert, that you go into a siding, the slower one. And I think I will just stop the train here for a second to see those thingies. Normally, if the switch is set to the normal position, you should see a green indication. But here in this DLC, they are always showing us this yellow indication with this big target, even if you can clearly see, if you look at the points, that the switch is set to straight through to the normal position. I think on those markers here, they switched it around. They mixed it up. They are in green if the switch is diverging, and they are yellow if the switch is straight through, and I think it should be the other way around. There are other ones, there are these small ones that you can see over there. They are correct. They show green if it is straight and yellow if it is diverging, if it is the reverse position. But those, I think they are the wrong way around. But anyway, since we know that it is that way, we can work with it. Yep, so So here we can see that the indicator is set to the normal position. We are going straight. This is what we are supposed to do, right? And so we can just go on. We don't need to stop. We don't need to set the switch. When we are going like we are going at the moment, then we would not necessarily need a conductor, but it is definitely easier because you can see things better. It can also tell us if we are approaching a level crossing. So in real life, conductor and engineer would be in radio contact more or less all the time, telling each other what they see and what they are doing and what they are supposed to do. So I think it is totally legitimate for game purposes to switch between the camera positions. Again, what we are doing at the moment, we could do this without a conductor, but later on we will see we definitely need one. And if we have one on the train, then why not use him? Yes, sometimes he gets knocked out of his position by the game, but he will always be there. And make sure that we are not going into a wrong direction. Next switch is straight ahead. This is not a level crossing. I always fell for that in the beginning. It is actually a crossing with two railway lines without a switch. Not for cars. Now we have to make sure, yeah, we can already see the points even before we can see the target, that those switches are set correctly, that we can go on straight ahead. So I almost ran into overspeed. But I just made it. So in real life, engineers and conductors would totally know out of the top of their heads where the switches are, where the level crossings are, and so on. I need to check the map sometimes to see what it is coming up. Now I released my brakes too late, but no worries. To check if conductors actually do what I have Hank doing tonight, I watched some videos on YouTube this afternoon, and yeah, they actually do that. They ride on the outside of cars and the outside of the locomotive, jump up and down even on rolling stock, on running trains. Even though there are always discussions about what exactly they should do and should not do. I guess so. But I guess as long as you adhere to some safety rules, it's not so dangerous. And I think you can do it without running or without jumping off trains and get on running trains and stuff. Now I have to be careful because a switch is coming up. So that we do not get too distracted by this level crossing stuff. But I think it is good. The target tells us the switch is straight ahead, and this is what we are supposed to go, where we are supposed to go. Straight ahead. Now we're getting close to the point we're actually supposed to stop. Hello, hello. Thank you very much. I'm doing great to Slayer VR. Does that mean you are watching with virtual reality goggles? Then you can see Hank's first appearance on my stream in virtual reality. No switches to be set, we can just go into our position. Okay. At least you can hear my 14L honking. We can see that the stop position actually asks us to stop more or less fouling a level crossing. This is something that you usually should avoid doing. But if it is necessary to get your train into the siding that you want to have it, then it is obviously unavoidable. So, 120 feet to our stop position. What is almost on the level crossing, or just very short in front of it. Maybe we can stop without fouling the level crossing. Yes, we can. And now if we check our map, what we are supposed to do. This is the way we came. Now we have to reverse back this way. And now we know why we took Hank on the right. Because if we are driving from this cap, even if we look out of the window and look back on the other side, we can barely see the end of our train, even if it is really short like it is today. But we can't really see which way the switches are set and so on. And if we are going the correct way, if there is something on the track, if there are signals that are probably in a way that we can't see it. And this is why we have Hank. And this is the point where I wanted to show you some operating rules and explain why we have Hank on our way. Just some little scraps from the Canadian Rail operating rules. When we are shoving equipment, when equipment is shoved by an engine or is headed by an unmanned remotely controlled engine, a crew member must be on the leading piece of equipment or on the ground in a position to observe the track to be used and to give signals or instructions needed to control the move. And this crew member is Hank. We will have him on the rearmost car and give instructions to us when we are driving. There is an exception. A crew member need not to be there if the track is known to be clear. And for that we would have some official telling us, I can see all the track, maybe a signaler or someone in an elevated position who can tell us that. We don't have that. This is why we need to have Hank. The same thing goes on. If you want, you can read it up in the Canadian Rail Operating Rules, Rule 115, and they tell you pretty much the same in Section D. Unless the route is known to be clear when reversing with a locomotive consist and visibility is restricted, even if you do not have cars and just going with a locomotive consist, in restricted visibility you need to have someone on the leading end in a position where the one can radio you the signals. So this is what Hank will be doing. He will be on the last car, he will be on the other side of our locomotive consist and give us instructions. And we use the external camera number 3 to modulate or to imitate Hank, this crew member who is not in the game obviously, but we can use the external camera to role play him. And This is what we have been doing before coupling to equipment. Before coupling to equipment, ensure at least one knuckle is open. This is why we had Hank get off the locomotive, check the couplers before we have actually coupled them. When coupling to passenger equipment, the train must be a stop must be made not less than 6 and not more than 12 feet, and you must couple with not more than 2 miles per hour. This is passenger equipment. To prevent bypass couplers, that means the couplers do not really hitting each other, then you need to make this stop 6 to 12 feet, even if it is not the passenger equipment, and you are obliged to do it if you are not on a tangent track. That means in any curved track, then you need to do this stop. On a tangent track with freight cars, you don't necessarily need to do that, but you need to do it if you have to ensure that one knuckle is open. Extreme caution must be used, ensuring couplers are properly aligned. So you can see coupling is always done best on a tangent track, on a straight track, and it is difficult and there can be problems if you do it in a curve. Coupling must be performed at the lowest speed necessary to make the coupling, so that they actually connect, not exceeding 6 miles per hour. So this is the highest allowed speed for coupling. So now we actually need a bit more, or know a bit more how this coupling is done in the game. Obviously you can just hit the cars with 5 to 6 miles per hour and everything is good and everything happens from by itself. But if you want to go play a bit more, then you can just adhere to those rules. And then prior to leaving, a coupling made with equipment not released under its own momentum, that's most of the time, must be stretched using sufficient tractive effort. So this is what we have been doing. We have been stretching our train after the coupling to see if the coupling was good. The same here again, equipment must be stretched before moving to ensure that it is coupled, and we have to make sure that there are handbrakes on the cars and so on. So actually there's a lot of stuff that the crew needs to be doing before they can run the train, and in the game the shunting and coupling and decoupling is always done quite fast, but there is a lot of safety precautions that you have to adhere to if you want to do it in a bit of a more realistic way. And I think we can pick some of those things to make our game, obviously our simulation, feel a bit more realistically. Yeah. And this is telling us, unless we can just hold the consistent place with the locomotive brakes, we must not release the handbrakes on the train. This is something that is not simulated in the game because it would slow down things extremely. That if you have cars standing by itself on sidings or wherever, you would have to secure them with applying the handbrakes. But if we fastened and released the handbrakes every time we're doing a coupling in the game, then we would not be able to do anything else. And since we do not have a real crew in the game, this is quite fine. But just for keeping it in the back of our head, usually we would have to make sure that there are handbrakes securing the cars. And another thing, switching with air brakes, what I found in the operating rules is that we are actually allowed to use the independent brake for switching, even if we have cars attached to the train, unless we are operating in a grade that is 0.4% or more, or if we have a train that is heavier than 2000 or 2000 tons. So with our train that is not heavier than 2000 tons, we can actually slow it down with the locomotive brakes alone. We would not have to use the more clumsy air brakes. Yeah, this was just a short section to explain why we have Hank. If there was ever any need to explain why we have Hank on our train. So, where is Hank? He is sitting on the locomotive, but he needs to be on the leading car. And the leading car, when we are reversing, is obviously the last car in our consist. So he has to go all the way back and here is a place where he can stand. He can put his feet onto this bar and hold onto here, and then he can ride on this car. That looks a bit wild, but they are actually doing it that way. He could also stand here, and there is a video on YouTube where you can see a conductor doing this, but this is against the rules, because it is quite obvious. If you're standing here, riding on the side of the train, and you fall off. You fall off. So you can break your ankle or whatever, but nothing worse happens. If you're standing here, and the train is going into this direction, and you fall off, well, I don't have to explain that, I guess. Good. But before Hank can ride here on the last car, he has to set our switch. And we just came that way, so we know that the switch is in the wrong way. Here you can see the green indication for the switch indicator, and we have to turn it around. Points are moving, and now we're going to the left. Hank can go into his position, into his conductor position, riding on the last car. And he radios us, switch is set, you can go. And me and the locomotive set the reverser, radio him, okay, starting up, throttle, release the independent, yeah, and set this thing in motion. From here I can see where we are going, but I cannot see what is on the track, I cannot see what the switches are set, and I cannot see any signals. So I have to more or less rely on what Hank is telling us. And Hank is riding here on the rear car, and he's looking out. And he's telling us, okay, take it easy, there's a switch coming up. We have to check if the switch is in the proper position, we have to go to the right. I can't see it yet. Well, it is saying the no, stop, I can see the target. We know it should be the other way around, but showing the target means the switch is set to the straight, but we have to go to the right. We stop. Hank gets off the train. Sets the switch, goes back into his position. Okay, all set, you can go. I check my reverser. Throttle, independent brake. Train is moving. So the engineer, me, can make sure that we are not going too fast. Have the eye on the speed clock. And from behind, Hank is telling us level crossing upcoming. Even more level crossings upcoming. All good with the... So somehow he gets knocked out of his position. Yeah. There are a lot of level crossings here in this area where we go around. We have discussed that there is... Okay, switch is clear, you can go on. That there are the whistleboards are missing. We don't actually know if we are supposed to whistle here or if this is a quiet zone or whatever. There is not one single whistleboard in the whole DLC. So I guess we would have to whistle most of the time here or use the horn. Whistle and horn is used just in the same way. Every time the rules say whistle, it applies to the horn as well. On British trains you usually have a button for whistle and a button for horn, and the whistle is the softer instrument that you would use in a depot. The horn is the louder one that you would use on open track. Okay, one last switch. Let me check if it is set correctly. We have to go to the right. Slow down a bit. Can't see it properly at the moment. Can see the target. But you just saw, maybe, that we saw the target, and now when we approached, the target vanished and it is set to green. This is a glitch in the game that is a bit confusing, because you think you know which way the switch is set, and then all of a sudden it is set the other way. Well, we are already at the gantry where we load our ethanol, and so that we can put our train in the correct position, we stop and let Hank go off his position and climb up this ladder here and look from this position here. I'm not quite sure if this is allowed, but it is a good way to see that we are going the right way. So Hank, maybe a bit to this side so that we can look in the direction that we are driving. And then we can move the train again. You can put the cars to the gantry even without the help of a conductor, but it is obviously much more relaxing to have someone actually see where we are. Thing is, we need to know how many car we have and where they need to go. Okay, slow down a bit. And last yard, stop it. That was actually a bit short, but it should work. And now we have to head up to the loading gantry. Every time we leave our train, we make sure that the throttle is off, that the independent brake at least is at full application. I also put this in initial reduction and the reverser to neutral, so that the train does not go its own way while we are off. I would say Hank can do all the ethanol loading, but he does not have the qualification to do that, so I have to do it myself. Open the hatch, take the muzzle, put it on, go back to the gantry, turn on the valve. And you can see how it is loading. This light will go from red to yellow to green until it is done. And now we have 5 cars. Turn on the pump, go over to the car, open the hatch, muzzle on top. Open the valve. Five times because we have 5 cars. Oops. 3. Four, 5. Where did Hank go? Maybe he's taking a break. And now the ethanol is loading. I can't see if the car here is already done. Yeah, I can see it because the green light is green. I can close the valve. I can remove the hose, close the hatch, turn off the machine. Here we go. 2. Close the valve. Close the hatch. Turn off the machine. Valve. Hose. Hatch. Machine. 4. Valve, hose, hatch, machine, and we're done. Hank, you can come and sit on the locomotive because we are going in the other direction. So, I'm back in my locomotive. We can leave the door open, it is a hot day. Let's make sure, yeah, Hank actually made its way to the locomotive. He can ride here to make sure that the switches are set. Yeah, you would have to see our last video from Thursday. We've been playing in the snow all the time. And it looks great, especially here in Canada. Hank, you're good to go? Then let's go. Oh, there were some auto brakes off. Yeah, do that. The snow is really great. Make sure we go to the right on the next 2 switches and then to the left. I will speed up a bit because we are a bit late. Okay, target is set to straight, that is okay. I can see the points, you can go on, everything okay. Second switch as well. I can see the target, I can see the points. Just go on. Okay, on the next switch we have to go to the left. Yep, it is okay. I can see the green marker and the points. We're going to the left. Everything is good. So we can make a bit speed because there are no switches that we have to be careful about. We're not facing the points. We can just go into our end position. And now AJ, if a car ran into the train or the other way around on such a crossing, oh, this is difficult to say, but usually it depends on what kind of signage there is. Usually it's the car's fault most of the time, but not necessarily always. What I wanted to show you, AJ, now our train is 917.4 tons, so actually loading the ethanol made a difference. Yes, it changed. So again we have to stop our train in the position that we have been in before. So we're actually going uphill on this bit, so the train stops almost by itself with those heavy tank cars. But here it is good. So where do we have to go? We have to reverse back into this position here, okay? Not all the way back to the yard where we started, but into the direction. Okay, Hank, you have to go back to the rear end because a switch needs to be set. So probably in real life the conductor would have jumped off the train here and waited for the train to pass so that he does not have to walk the whole length back. He can set the switch and go back into his position. Radios radius back to the driver, to me. Joe, you can go Alright, we go. All good at the rear end. Yes, all good. Track is clear. Great, thank you. So we're close to our next stop position. Track is clear, so I can have the view with the driver. And from what we learned, we can still use the independent brakes to stop our train. We don't necessarily need to use the air brakes. What makes everything so much more comfortable. For the run back to McAnulty Yard, move the locomotives to the front of the cars for better visibility. Yeah, that is a good point. If we ran back the whole track, the whole route with the cars at front, then Hank would have to ride all the time standing here, and this is obviously inconvenient. So you can come back and uncouple. Red zone protection. Okay, uncoupled. Well, I sit on this end here because I will have to flip the switches later. Okay. Then we can go away from our cars, and we will use the siding here to overtake our cars and get to the other end with our locomotives. Again, we have almost to stop on the level crossing. It's a different level crossing, but again, almost on top of it is our stop position. Okay, now I stopped a bit short. Here we are. And we have to go to the track adjacent to the one that we are on now. So Hank, would you be so kind to set the switch? No problem. Make sure the next switch is set into the proper position. Can he reach it? Well, he can see that it is not set in the proper position, but he cannot go so far. So we will have to drive a bit, and then he can set the switch. Check the reverser. We have actually to reverse. So I think it is against the rules, but what people obviously can do to make things faster, and if it needs to be fast, you can have the train running and the conductor sets the switch while the train is running, and then you save some time. And then he jumps back onto the train. But I think this is not the best procedure. Not best practice. And we don't want Hank to get hurt. So these are our cars. We're overtaking them so that we can pull them back to the yard from our position at the front of the train, not from behind. Another combo of level crossing and switch, but we are not facing the points, so no need to be extra cautious. Just honk our 14L. Now we're going back on the track that the cars are on. We're stopping in front of the next level crossing so we don't have to warn cars. Okay, Hank, you can step off the train and set the switch so that we can go back to our cars. And then please go back on the locomotive on the other end, please. I can handle that end, you sit on the other end, because this is the way that we are going after we have coupled. But I have to check the couplers, and if everything is coupled well. Oh yeah, you're right. Well then, you have to walk around the locomotive again. Actually, with all the trains going back and forth here, there must be a lot of noise with those 14L honking. And without whistleboards, we do not know if this is a quiet area or not. Again, I will stop 6 to 12 feet away from the cars so that Hank can check if the couplers are open. Zone red protection, please. Okay. Zone red released. You can couple. And we couple. Coupling successful. Hank has attached the air hoses. What we know that we need to do, except for turning off the light here and turning it on the other side, we need to stretch the train to check if the coupling was successful. For that, Hank will check this and I will apply some power to stretch the train and to see if the couplers hold. You can actually hear the cars stretching, and you saw the tank car moving a bit back and forth in the coupler. So this is really nice that this is simulated in the game. Okay, Hank, I need you up front. Why is there still lights on? Ah, this is the ditch lights. I will turn off the ditch lights as soon as I'm back in the driver's position. Because the ditch lights... Where are the ditch lights again? Here. We don't need them if we have cars at front. Okay. Obviously we could run the train like this. This is good enough to see all the signals, but it is better to have a conductor here out front and check if all the switches are in the proper position. No, there isn't. This is just role play. Checking the couplers, doing this stretching thing. You don't need to do that if you play this mission. This is just me adding a bit more role play stuff to the game to make it feel a bit more realistic. Okay. All set, Hank is in position, reverser is set. We can move this train. But it would be cool if there were malfunctions like this, that couplers break, that couplers are not aligned properly, and stuff like that. But you can see, even if we can run the train like this, Hank is in a much better position to see what is coming up. I'm always checking between the speed clock and the track ahead. This is really a section of the track where a quiet zone sign would come in handy. Don't get into speeding. We're running downhill here a bit. Nice that they have these cars running on the streets here. In the game, at least, the gas prices did not get increased. Okay, Hank, make sure that we are going straight. Can you see the target of the second switch? Can't really see it because it is hidden. Yeah, but the points are aligned correctly. Just go on. Now we can see the target. Again, in this DLC, the positions are switched around. Most probably between normal and reverse position for the switch indicators. Make sure we're going to the right. Somewhere I read every time the loco is going across a level crossing, you should throttle down a notch to reduce the strain that this concrete stuff has on the wheels. But I think if you're not going that fast, then it is not that important. So now I think we should be back to the yard. At least it cannot be far. But just imagine we had not put the locomotives on the other end of the train, then Hank would have had to ride all this way hanging on the outside of the car. We don't want him to do that. Oh, we're going to the left now. Slow down a bit that we can see if we're going correctly. Yeah, we're going correctly. Then to the right and then to the second right. Take it easy a bit now. Yeah, we're going to the right, that is good. And then the second track on the right. So straight on the first switch and diverging on the second. You could just see the target pop up. Okay, first switch is set correctly. Second one tells us green, that is not good. We have to stop and set this second switch. Okay, Hank, your job, set this switch. Points are aligned. We can go on. And this is where we leave those cars, I guess. Good. Hank, you can uncouple. Zone red protection. Zone red released. Okay, we don't have to fix the handbrakes. Somebody else is doing this. While the train is being propelled to the next location, be aware of any further switches. Yeah, this is why we have Hank. Go back into your position. And we can go on. Let's see where we have to go. Just straight out of this stuff here. No need to pay attention to the switches because we are facing them from the other side, not from the points, not towards the points. So we can just drive out quickly. We have our conductor on the other end of our locomotive consist. So he can radio us if anything goes wrong. This is the area where we have to go. Warn the traffic. Ah, you could actually see that the gates closed. It's the first time that I saw that those crossing gates are actually working. I thought we had to stop in front of it. Now we have to stop right in the middle. Okay, we have to get 10 more cars. Those cars. Get conductor, please go to the other side of the train. And right here, in case we need to set switches. We have to go into the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth track to the left. Again, we could do this ourselves because now we are driving forward. But still, with the conductor on the stern, everything is much more easy. Okay? Slow down, slow down. The switch is set to the second siding. What is not really a surprise because this is where we came. Alright, go ahead. Okay, fourth siding switch is not set in the correct position. Please stop in front of it. Conductor goes off, sets the switch, goes back onto the stern. We can go on. Same procedure, 6 to 12 feet. Conductor checks. Zone red protection. Zone red released. You can couple. Hank fixes the air hose. I check if the PCS switch jumped out. It did not. We need to check the coupling by applying some traction force to stretch the train. Again, you could see clearly how the car is moving in the coupler, and you could see the play where everything worked. Where do I want to have the conductor? Go on the other end, because we are driving that way. To reverse, that is where we are supposed to go. All set. We can move. Driving out of the sidings is not the big problem, because we are approaching the switches from not facing towards the points. Okay, now we have 10 cars. AJ, I will just finish this scenario here, if that's okay for you. Instead of starting another one. Okay, we have to divert to the left. It looks as if the switch is set correctly. Yes. You can see it on the points much better than you can see it on the marker sometimes, because the points are actually true. The marker sometimes switches around while approaching. Let's check where we are supposed to go. Aha, left and then straight. Alright. Ah! Now I've finally been speeding. Down the hill here. Now I hope Hank will not be kicked out. He got kicked out. But he's back. And kicked out again. This is where I want to have my conductor. At least the switch is set correctly. And we're going the correct way. So, conductor camera placed. If this here is actually a level crossing, I have no idea. We're going straight. Alright. Okay, now that we know that we are on the correct track, we can make speed a bit. So, what are we doing here? Most probably we will set the locomotive on the other end of the train. So Hank has to uncouple again. He can do this without zone red now, because he does not enter the room between the vehicles. We will just go on straight a bit. Yeah. That's all we need to do, go on straight a bit. So that we can get on the other end of our train. Now I went a bit far. But this does not matter, we have to go into this direction anyway. Yes, this is the stopping point. Now we have to overtake our own train, get on the other side of the switches. Oops, not so much. Yes, but we can see the next switch that we are approaching is still in the wrong position. We cannot go straight ahead. More work for our conductor. So if you did not see this before, or did not realize this before, it is not really difficult to drive those trains, at least not in the simulator. But it is not so easy to keep up the focus and the concentration all the time. To not speed, to not go into the wrong direction, to not miss a switch that is not put in the correct position, to skip procedures. I will just assume this is not a level crossing, so I will only use the bell. I think this is some yard facility here, not a public level crossing. Okay, conductor, please set the switch. Since we came this way, it cannot be aligned correctly. All good, already added, you can go. Reverse, throttle, independent brake, more throttle, and go. The switch is still set up correctly. We're approaching the cars. That stop was a bit short. We have to go a bit further, closer to the car for the inspection. Conductor checks the couplers. Zone red. Couplers working. Couplers working and open. Zone red released. I'm coupling. Conductor attaches the hose. I'm checking where I have to go. We have to pull the train out, and then probably we will reverse to the ethanol loading area. But first, that we don't forget this, we have to check our coupling by stretching the train a bit. All good? Can reverse our lighting setup. Conductor is on the train, we can go. Stop the train. And now you will have to reverse. That means, Hank, you have to go to the end of the train. All the 10 cars. And right at the end of the last car, so that you can tell me where we are going. First, before you do that, set the switch, because we are going over there to get the ethanol. Is that where we are supposed to go? Yes, this is the way we are supposed to go. This is where we get the ethanol. Okay, Hank, are you in position? You are in position. Then I can reverse. All good at the end. All good at the end. Alright, closing in on the gantry, slowing down a bit. Again, before we get there, we'll stop the train. Hank can go up the ladder and can tell us when we are in position. Move the train. This time we have 10 cars, 10 times the procedure. Okay, approaching second but last. You can slow down a bit. Okay, stop him. Yeah, this is what I want to see. Okay. Securing the train, initial reduction, full application, neutral, idle. I can get out of my train and start the loading procedure. Machine on. Over to the car. Hatch. What's wrong? It looked so well. I cannot pick up the hose. Maybe I need... Maybe I need to move the train a bit more. I was so proud that they were aligned so well, but obviously the hose is not long enough. And I will just go a tiny bit more. Ah, I see. I was actually not in position. Look at that. Game did not recognize me as being in position. But look at this. Now I'm actually suspicious. If I go over to the car now, I think I cannot go back. I will move the train once more. This might be tedious now, but I don't trust this. I've seen this before. Maybe now we are happy with the positioning. Now I'm quite confident that I can go back. But I cannot put the hose on top. This is a bit bizarre now. But let's see where we are going. I think this is because we have the car aligned the other way around than we had them before, so it is a bit shaky to get them into the correct position to load them without getting lost on top of them. Now it does not work like this, because now if I go on the other side, I hope I won't get lost. It still doesn't work for whatever reason. What is the problem with those hoses here? Why don't they want to go on my hatches? Does the game want to move all the hoses first, or what? But that would be strange, actually. Oh, you can see how the hoses are... There is no hose at all. Okay, there is one. It is coming from wherever. Luckily not hitting my head. Okay. So can I load the ethanol now? Or is there still something wrong? No, I cannot put the hose on the car. For what reason ever. The hatch is open. I have the hose. But the hose does not want to go. Let's see if there's any way to fix this. So unfortunately, after 2 hours into the scenario, the loading facility is not working. So what I do, I move the train out of the facility and in again, and let's see if that changes anything. I'd really love to load the ethanol, but I can't if the hoses do not attach. To the cars. Let's try to stop them in some awkward position, maybe. Ah, you could see the play between the cars nicely here. Secure the train. Now I have to go all the way back. To see if I can get my hoses attached to the muzzle or to the hatch. So that we can finish this scenario. so. This is what the machine is supposed to do. I climb over. But the hose does not come. So for the sake of argument, let's try it with the train in another position. Let's move the hose on top of this dome here. Maybe even a bit more to the other direction. Because if it does not fit then there is no way to fit this hose. If it does not fit now, then there's no way to fit it. Interesting. I played this scenario yesterday, I guess, and it worked perfectly. In this position, maybe I broke it because I tried to get the hoses on before I actually moved the train in the position where the game recognized that it was in the correct position. Okay, in this position I cannot even go over. Or maybe I can get there from the other side. If I climb the ladder here. No, I can't. Why can I not climb the ladder? I usually can. Can I do this only from the other side? No, here I can climb the ladder. But I cannot walk over. Here the ladder is somehow blocked. I cannot use it. Jesus. What are you doing to me, game? Okay, I cannot get over that. If there is not at least some overlap between the opening and the railing on the car and the gantry. Okay. But I want to find a way now to do this. And if I'm playing the whole night... AJ, you've fallen asleep, haven't you? I guess you have. Well, since I cannot use this gantry to load the ethanol, maybe I can go to a different one and load it there. But now let's just try it if it works here. But it does not work here. Not for whatever in the world. The hoses won't go on the hatch. Okay, let's find a way to get our train somewhere where we can load it. We have 10 cars. That is a bit complicated because most of the gantries are shorter than 10 cars. On the other hand, we don't have any signals here. That means we can roam more or less freely with our train. So let's see. We have another gantry at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We go over there and try to load it. It is not where the mission marker is, but it just says load ethanol. And this is what we're trying to do. Okay, Hank. I guess you're the only one with me. But if the game does not want to play ball, then we find a way how we can make it. So where do we need to go? We need to go across the next couple of switches and then reverse to the other gantry. We will see if the other one is actually working, or if it is just a dummy. This is the switch, right? Yeah. So we have to be clear of this switch with our cars before we can reverse. I've left the hatch open on the last car. Yes, I'm still here. Hank, please go to the end of the train you can use your super speed if you do not hit the level crossing gate, and set my switch. And then let's hope that the game does not kick us out. We have to go... That is a funny switch, it does not have an alternate position. To the rightmost gentry. Okay. I will reverse. Hank, you're on the lookout. Tell me if we have to stop to set the switches. Most probably they are not aligned in the correct position. Ah, this is what the switch is for. It is for a track that is not on the map. It goes away somewhere. Okay, the first one is set okay. So this track to the right is not on the map. This is funny. And the next one is not set the way that we need it. What? I thought the switch was set correctly. Where are we going? This is not the way that we want to go. I must have made a mistake. Okay. Move the train out a bit. So how did I not see that this switch was aligned that way? Well, lack of focus, I guess. That is the way it is supposed to be aligned. And this is the way this is supposed to be aligned. And now Hank can already go up and tell us when we are in a position to stop the train. Let's reverse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can see there are no hoses on the gantries, so I'm afraid it will not work here either. Okay, now I am a bit too far. The funny thing is, it worked at the site that we were first. Now we have our hoses on the other side. Maybe this makes a difference. Well, except for a smooth shunting mission, this stream ends up to be a very weird experimental one. So I don't think that I can get the hose closer to my hatch and still have some room to step over. Oh, that was okay. But no, the hose won't go. It won't go anywhere near my car. Not for the life of me. Yeah, the only thing that I can probably have done to break this was to try to operate those machines before my train was actually in position. Well, this is the weirdest stream ever that I had so far. So what can I do? I can actually try to go to the facility where we were at the beginning. The one that worked. And have a try there. Or some other facility on the way. Maybe we will be playing so long that it will get dark. At least in case we would ever be able to finish this scenario, we would not have to go for an extra tour. To collect some more points. We have already done more extra tours than there ever were necessary. Hello, Kara. The dogs are coming out. So let's see where we have to pass this yard here. On the left, I guess. Yeah, that is okay. Left and left. Oh. Well, we can go through there as well. As long as there is no equipment on the road and we're not running in any signals, does not matter which of those sidings we are taking. Well, let's see what we can make out of this scenario. As long as we don't have to go across automatic switches that are not aligned properly, or signals that don't let us pass. There's a train sitting there. Or at least one car. So if for some reason I could use this facility that is closest to us, it only has 4 places to load the cars. I would have to cut the train twice. Whatever, I will try. Stream will probably take 3 or 4 hours then. But now I've got my teeth into it. I've got the locomotive at the wrong end too, so I would have to switch it around again. Well, this is not impossible. Oh, it's 5. So I would have to split the train only once. So in case this facility is working, I would get my train here, get 5 cars, load them, and get the other 5 cars. Let's see where we end up with this. Well, this petrochemical chaos scenario definitely lived up to its name. If I ever get to put this video on YouTube, it will process for like 2 weeks, I guess. Okay, we're getting closer. And I've been speeding, but you might have noticed I finally accepted the fact that there are no whistleboards, and to play it easy on your and my ears, I skipped the honking, assuming that we are in a quiet zone starting at 4 in the afternoon. So most probably we'll have to reset this switch here. Oops, that's me. I need Hank. Get back on the loco, man. So what I'm trying to do now is to get my locomotive on the other end of this consist, then take 5 of those cars and get them to the facility. But before I do that, I might want to check with the external camera 8 if they have hoses attached to their muscles. If not, I might want to go straight to the other facility that we used before and check What is going on there? Okay, they have hoses. They seem operational. We'll go for it. We will give it a go. Okay, are we fouling the switch over there? Oh yeah, we are fouling the switch. So, Hank, what are you doing? Why are you flying around in the air? Get on your locomotive. So just let's go so far that the cars are no longer fouling the switch. That is good, otherwise I cannot get back around there. And then Hank, please uncouple 5 cars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Red zone, yeah, red zone. Okay, back on the loco. And we go on with the other 5 cars. Is it working out? What happened over there? Where did this car come from? It was not there before. It's getting more and more strange. Ah, that is the one on the siding. No, it is not getting strange. Hank, please uncouple those cars, or do I have to put them further ahead? Those, there, there. So just check my logics. I go back and put those cars. I need to have my locomotive at the front in the end, so that I can go back with this consist in this situation. Okay, yeah, I think this works. And I've been speeding. Well, that is my the least of my problems. Okay. We go to the other side and take the first batch of the cars in. Okay, speeding again is the least of my problems. Just have to make sure that we get the same formation again, so that we do not get docked for not arriving with the correct formation at the end of the mission. So the cars that we put in first are the cars that are supposed at the end of the train. The good thing about this being a scenario is that there might not be any other trains on the road. Ah yeah. The end of train device is still on. That seems to be something that is scripted. Where the end of train device ends up to be. I hope we can actually move those cars without destroying this script here. Let's see what happens with this end of train device. If we can actually couple. We can. The end of train device vanished. Okay, we have to drive a bit before the switch can be set. That sounds weird, as if there are some brakes on. But the handbrake is released. Well, we just check it out, then we will see if there is any way to save this scenario. Okay, the switch is okay. Somehow the brakes on these cars seem to be fastened and won't release. Let's see. If there's any way. Okay, I cannot operate the muzzle if I am only a camera. We'll try it here. It works! Well, I can at least fill my cars. So I guess since those are only 5 cars, they will get filled. Those are green, and I can already remove them. Alright. The first half of the train is actually loaded with ethanol now. 1 hour late? Well, it is as it is. If the brakes don't release, then the brakes don't release. And I will pull them with non-release brakes. Hank, I want you on the other side. Yep, stand here. Okay, and now I park them on this siding. Okay, now it was my own brake. Yep, they are going where they are supposed to go. Just make sure that we do not couple to the other cars. I don't want those in my consist. Okay, those cars wait here. We go backwards. And get the other batch. Ah, they got their end of train device back, that is sweet. Ah, we gotta go a bit more. It's the other switch. Ah, anyway. Could have set the switch already. But we will do it when we next come there. Interestingly, the other cars remembered that they are the end of the train. Now they've got their end of train device back. Okay. I hope you don't mind that I don't do the strain test and stretch the cars. So don't forget that the other switch needs to be set still. You can go up still already. I wonder why those brakes are not releasing. Those cars are almost stopping by itself. Bit more, please. Okay, and let's try to fill the second batch. It will be interesting if there is a bit in the mission telling me to turn off all the machines and I have to go back to the other gentry and turn them off there. Well, one thing after the other. Yes, that one is already full. No, stay closed. Off is what I want to turn you. Ensure all the pumps are deactivated. Those are the pumps on the other end of the world. Okay, my pumps here are deactivated. But not the one over there, maybe. So this is the gantry where the pumps need to be deactivated. Jesus Christ. Do I need to drive back now and switch off all the pumps over there? Maybe I can do this with the external camera. With the free 8 camera. Because switching on and off was possible. So here everything is off. Over there, well, you never know unless you tried. Oh! Crazy! Well, now I have to rebuild my train. Reassemble it in the correct formation. And then let's try to get to stop in McAnulty Yard. Okay, this is where the conductor should be. Should he? No, he should be at the end, because he has to set the switch.